America, welcome inside the Business Pulse, brought to you by the Freedom Chamber, online at freedomchamber.net. It is the pro-American business network. Thanks so much for joining us. Rod Martin, out on vacay, I think. Or maybe he's just playing hooky, or maybe he's sick. But he chimed in and said he couldn't make it today, but we brought in Doug DeGroot from DeGroot Financial. Welcome in, Doug.
Thank you
And,
for having
of
me.
course, Dean Owen of Owen CPA. Gentlemen, a lot to unpack today. Inflation, we've got interest rates, we've got the big, beautiful bill, we've got some retirement plans that we can talk about. So, Dean, I'm going to let you pop it off real quick and throw out the first subject, and I'll let you two get after it.
Well, I think I'll start with a tip that the chamber members can use today and they need to know about. There's a deadline coming in the middle of next month for certain retirement plans. And under Secure 2.0, there is a lot of money on the table in tax credits, a little over $16,000 if chamber members will start a workplace retirement plan. And of course, starting a workplace retirement plan makes you a much more attractive employer, and you get much better employees, and you know how the game's played. If you don't have the best employees, you don't have the best business. Somebody who's got better employees will beat you out. So lots of good stuff going on with that. Lots of big credits to help small business owners set up retirement plans, put some money back in their pocket. There's a lot of incentive around that. So if you don't have a workplace retirement plan and you don't have someone to help you, give us a call, jump on our website, connect with us, let my team help you out.
Doug, how does that roll in your world with retirement plans and what you're seeing with the markets and inflation and financials and interest rates? I mean, you guys are soaking in it deeper than I could ever think about soaking in it for businesses.
Living in California, wherever you have the incentive to put money away pre-tax, or from a business standpoint, use that business expense, 13% tax rate in California is always attractive for small businesses, and for the employees, it's that forced savings. I mean, they need to have that in place, especially as they get on into the retirement years. If they don't start, the younger you start, the more dedicated you are, the more purposeful you are with that, the better off you're going to be in retirement. But most importantly, those tax deductions. When you're struggling in California, you got businesses left and right. Anything you can do to help save a few pennies is going to help go a long, long way.
And then if you leave California in retirement, you've got 13% tax break going in and a much lower, if any, tax coming out. So
right.
There's some arbitrage
So as you
there.
migrate out to California to, every state east of us, and some northeast, it seems like, your money goes that much farther. It's like, when you really look at it, it's a 26% delta, 13% saving on the way out, 13% on the way in, or on the way in, and 13% on the way out.
Can I put an asterisk next to Illinois on that, Doug? Is that
There are a
possible?
few states like Illinois, New York, New Jersey.
New Jersey? Okay, there you go.
But any place that has a blue shirt like I'm wearing, I should have worn a red one. But unfortunately, any state that's out there is that's run by these crazy people.
One of the things that we've been able to do is when someone is going to retire and they're in a high tax state, then we set them up a year before retirement as a resident of Tennessee, because they have no state income tax. And if you've got a $2 million retirement account, that's $120,000 or more. Well, $120,000, you go buy a lake house on Lake Reelfoot, make that as your residence for a year. Boom, and then sell your business. We had one, I helped a buddy sell a business in Illinois for $26 million. Well, 2 years before he sold it, we made him a Tennessee resident. $26 million times Illinois' tax rate, that paid for several lake houses on Lake Reelfoot.
And you just brought up a really important point. You've got the millennials out there that everybody talks about the size of them, but the baby boomers are going to be retiring and moving out of the workplace at 15,000, 20,000 a day over the next few years. And what's incredible is people don't realize that the baby boomers, small businesses in America, are going to be for sale. And a lot of second, the millennials don't want to run their dad's business or grandpa's business, or the Generation Z or whatever. Those people are going to be selling their businesses. And so if you're looking at that, I think you just brought up a huge point, Dean. And we deal with this a lot because we deal with mostly small business owners, and we do work on helping you relocate prior to that sale, or do as much tax planning as we possibly can so that we can actually, do whatever we can do to save as many dollars as possible when you do have that liquidity event or transition that business to family members or ESOP or whatever it might be that is that you want to do to move into those retirement years or to get out from under that business. It could have been a great lifestyle business, generates tons of income, but how do you do that to get that sale to maximize that price and then minimize the taxes on the way out? So we work with
And
guys like that, Dean,
one-
all the time.
Yeah, and one of the things here with the One Big Beautiful Bill is the qualified small business stock, which has been around for a long time, was very radically sweetened.
Yeah.
You take a C corporation, and we don't like to operate as a C corporation because of double taxation, but you create a C corporation tax shell. You just barely keep it alive as long as you need to. Operate your business as an S corp. You're spending a couple $300, $400 a year on maintaining this thing, and then you take your S corp and you shove it up under the C corp and sell the C corp. Up to $15 million of tax-free gain. And if you're able to get $15 million, that's $3 million in tax.
Yeah.
And if you kept this thing alive for 5-10 years, you spent a few $1,000s to shelter $3 million in actual tax.
Yeah.
And no one in the financial services or the tax industry is talking about this stuff.
Yeah, this
How do
is
you
the
not talk
problem.
about
Most
that?
people, Dean, I think if you're not working with, if you own small businesses or a small business or mid-sized business, it's a private company, you really have to look at this. And, 65-70% of my clients are all business owners. So we're dealing with this on a daily basis as it perpetuates itself through different seasons of life.
Here's another tidbit that can help some business owners, not everybody. There's what's called a TN visa. And under President's first term, under the USMCA, there is a list of professions and occupations at the U.S. Immigration's website. It's all legal, that you can have people come here from Mexico or Canada on an expedited visa. I've done this. I've got 2 folks over. The guy that's sitting right beside me and helps me with all the video. His family's one of them. Amazing people and professionals, especially in the accounting world. So if there's someone who has a need of that, jump on our website, connect with us, and we'll get you the information and get you in touch with the immigration attorneys and talk about how we get this done. But I know that a lot of the professions, accounting is one of them. There's not nearly enough accountants being graduated to make up for those that are leaving the profession. Veterinary profession's horrible. I happen to know that the state of Illinois graduated 71 veterinarians last year and 272 retired. So you have pockets where there's just real legal problems. And
the professional services, you're seeing that especially in places like Illinois, California, New Jersey, New York. You have folks that are basically high income earners. They're used to running their own practices, and they're really their own business owners. And you've had these roll-up companies that have come in and paying quite a bit to roll them up. So that's one issue. And then the other issue is people look at it, they're not being trained or taught in medical school, dental school, veterinary school, as a CPA to really run their own business or their own practice. And there's a ton of these practices for sale, especially in California where I am, as well as I know in other states that we work with, advisors and clients. They're understaffed. There's not enough graduates that want to run their own business. And the payout, like if you want to be a doctor, you go work for Kaiser Permanente, get a salary, they pay you off your loan, and you're a 9-to-5 guy, and it's pretty sweet. But you're capped out. Great retirement plan, but it's becoming kind of a professional, like a teacher, where your income's coming down, but your retirement plan is really great at the back end.
Gents, I'm going to have to pause you there. We're running up against the break. We've got Doug DeGroot sitting in for Rod Martin today. You can always find Rod Martin online at rodmartin.org and the Martin Report. And I know Doug DeGroot also has a newsletter. We're going to talk about that after the break. It's Dean Owen, it's Doug DeGroot, it's Chuck Barham. The Business Pulse, brought to you by the Freedom Chamber. We'll be right back.
Hey, the Freedom Chamber is amazing. I'm so glad that we get to be here on the Freedom Chamber's Business Pulse. This is an organization you should support. It's an organization of which you should be a member. The Freedom Chamber is getting important things done in this country. And honestly, we need spaces for people who believe the sorts of things that if you're watching this, you probably do. We have gone through this extended period of not just canceling individuals, but just boycotting businesses and doing terrible things, debanking. Nigel Farage, who is likely to be the next prime minister of the United Kingdom, was actually debanked by all the major banks in the United Kingdom. And of course that happens here, and we get de-insured and all these terrible things. The Freedom Chamber is fighting for you. The Freedom Chamber is here to make sure that you're protected, that your values matter, they count, and they're in the public square. So I encourage everybody to join the Freedom Chamber.
Welcome back inside the Business Pulse. I'm Chuck Barham, joined by Doug DeGroot of DeGroot Financial and Dean Owen of Owen CPA. And I feel like a heel, Dean, because I mentioned Rod Martin's Martin Report. I mentioned Doug DeGroot's newsletter. Dean, go ahead and push out your newsletter to the public right now. Where can they find it at?
Well, Chuck, that's one of those things. If I don't tell you, you don't know.
Exactly. I only know what I don't know, right?
If you go to owencpa.com, and there'll be a landing page. You can get on the landing page there. We'll send you emails once a week for businesses, once a week for individual, and then I try to send out something most weekends from me personally. Really good information. We're trying to educate. We're not trying to sell people. I've been told it's one of the best there is in the industry because we're trying to be truly trying to be a servant and help people save money, cut taxes, know what's going on with these things, take advantage of these retirement plan and know when the limits are. And it's the team that does the Tuesday, Wednesday email. That's my website team doing that. But then on the weekend, that's me personally.
So owencpa.com, that's where you can register, owencpa.com. Doug, you've got a newsletter that gets published, what is it, once a week, once every other week? Once a week?
I do it once a week, but sometimes if I'm traveling, like I just got back from Zambia, so I missed a few weeks. But we try to get it out at least 3 to 4 times a month. And so what happened this week and what does it mean to you? You can find it on my website at degrootfinancial.com. And it's all education. There's no sales in it. Doesn't tell you to buy this or sell that or anything. It's all economic from a macro view. And then what we do is we kind of tear it apart, and the data that comes out of the BLS or Bureau of Labor Statistics, which has been in the news quite a bit lately, or wherever we get that data, whatever data is from real estate to the markets, whatever, we take that data and we synthesize it down and say, hey, here's what happened and here's what it means to you. And it's kind of interesting. You talk about the big, beautiful bill, inflation, what happened about 5 years ago. That was actually a little more than that. It was really in Trump's first administration, so it's really more like 2017, 2018, when interest rates started to go up. We had passed a bill that allowed the Federal Reserve, you might have heard a little bit more about this in the news lately, Senator Scott out of Florida and Ted Cruz have been hammering it, Warren Davidson. I've been in front of the Freedom Caucus guys multiple times since 2017, 2018, harping on the idea that we are literally using taxpayer dollars to subsidize the banks. And in the big, beautiful bill, we tried to cut a bunch of money, right? Well, they're crowing about the idea that they saved, $9 billion. Well, how do you like it if we could, in one bill, save $240 billion by eliminating a law that went into place in 2008 under Bush? What happened, Bernanke, when they freaked out about the spending that they were doing, they're going, holy smokes, we're going to have inflation. And they're trying to save the housing rates. And so he went into Bush and basically begged them to allow the Fed to pay interest to the banks. And so for 200 plus years, we never paid interest to the banks from the Federal Reserve at all. Their reserves would go in after this law was passed, and they would earn whatever the Fed rate they wanted to build on. Well, when it was a 0.25% or 0%, it didn't. If they're paying $5 billion out, 2017 they started to raise interest rates. All of a sudden, it was 120 billion dollars that we're paying Bank of America, J.P. Morgan, what have you. Top 19 banks, did like 90% of it. And when inflation peaked in 2022, that number was 250 billion dollars. And at 5.4%, we're now at 4.4, 4.5%. And what was interesting, we said, hey, look, when rates go up, reserves are going to go up, money's going to come in, the banks can get paid with no risk whatsoever. It's all coming out of the taxpayer dollars. So we could literally get rid of this overnight with one bill and save our country $250 billion at the current rate. And what this has done is it has suffocated the small banks. We've gone from 15,000 different brands of small banks in 2000 to now we're down around 3,500. That's it. And the worst part about it is 70% of small business loans and about 70% of real estate loans are originated at the small local bank level, not at JP Morgan, not at Chase, not at Bank of America or Wells Fargo. Small business banks originate those loans. Well, we've suffocated capital, driving up the cost of capital because the competition is no more there. And the big banks, you're dealing with some guy in New York that's going to say you can borrow this money or not. And that's why you've seen this massive movement to lending programs that are non-bank, private equity, private debt deals, secured asset lending, things like that, CLOs, whatever it might be. And that is taken off as a new industry, but what it's actually done is it's increased the cost of capital probably by 2.5 times since this has happened. So if you look at real borrowing for banks, and Dean, you work with business owners, small business is probably borrowing at around 12 to 13%. And that's a good business, one that's got a little bit of risk, and they need money that they can turn over without going through the SBA. They're probably at 15, 16%. And these are good companies. These are your local pizzeria, restaurants, dry cleaners. They're the ones that make, Main Street work. And this is a huge issue. So you talk about that big, beautiful bill, what we can do to save America money. We literally can, double, triple what they've saved in the current, Doge and what have you. We literally double what Doge has pointed out. And
Yeah.
pull.
And I'm
Go ahead.
hopeful that we get there. Something that doesn't get talked about a whole lot is Doge using AI and some really advanced software is going through every federal government regulation there is. And Trump has set a deadline that he wants half of them removed by January 20th of next year.
Yeah.
And we've seen what this president does with deadlines. He sticks to them. He move a little bit if he has to, but when he sets a foot in the ground on something like this, he stuck his foot in the ground. And he gets what he wants.
You work with the IRS on a daily basis in some way, some form. And the IRS is one of those antiquated agencies we've got out there. Their software programs are running on stuff that was invented in the 1980s. And they are so backed up. It's crazy what's going on. So we can save billions of dollars just by redoing that. But that's another story.
For another time, correct?
Yeah.
For another time. Now, real
With
quick,
that,
boys, we're running up against a hard break here on our last segment. I want to
But I
dive
do
into
want to show that. I do want to show the big beautiful bill.
Oh,
stuff
go
on
ahead.
that,
Go ahead,
on
real
that
quick.
Letter, but we can come back to it when you're done, Chuck.
Well, I just want to dive into the mailbag real quick because we did get an email from Ryan at Oh My Omaha Steaks and Chops. It's a processing place, a processing plant outside of Omaha. He goes, Chuck, enjoy the program with you and Rod and Dean. Really appreciate your insights. Question for you. I'm looking to expand. Real estate in Omaha ticked up here. I've got capital inside of my retirement, but I also have a HELOC I just took out on my home. Which one should I dive inside of? And this is directed right at Dean.
Ryan, reach out to me. If you're Freedom Chamber, you're going to talk to me, not somebody on the team.
Yes.
But that's a tax question. It talks about your tax rate, your income, your age, lots of different things. If you're high earner, and I'm suspecting he is, and he's under age 59 and a half, I'm assuming he is, then that HELOC is probably going to be a better bet because of the 10% additional tax that you pay on top of a crushing income tax rate. And I'm not big on debt. I'm get out of debt kind of guy. But if it's either paid the bank, X percent or paid the IRS X times 2%, well, then the bank's a better deal. So HELOCs are the preferred vehicle to borrow money on right now. And it's just a way some rate arbitrage going on. So, but Ryan, reach out to me personally. I will get back to you personally.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dean. Doug, let's look at your newsletter real quick as we're running up against the break. If you can pull that up, producer Mike, see what we got here. Here we go.
What's interesting about this chart, it shows where government has gotten involved in our lives inflation it's gone up anywhere from 120% to 250%. You look at education, you look at housing, you look at everything that they've touched, healthcare, medicine, anything that the government's gotten involved in, the massive amount of increase has just been blown up. And you can kind of see the different lines there in it. And it's pretty interesting because what we're seeing, and unfortunately, you've got hospital care up 275%, college tuition up 190%. Right now, you look at what's happening in education and the idea of, hey, you got to go to college, you got to get this, you got to do that. Well, if you're spending 190% more over the last 20 years on education, you look at that cost and the factor of what you're getting out of it, it makes it really hard for people to do things. And then you look at the cost of from food all the way across, and you see this green line. Everything else has gone down as technology has evolved, AI, whatever you might want to call it, but we've become more efficient and productivity has increased over time because of technology and what have you. Yet, the areas that the government directly involves itself, the inflation numbers go through the roof. And this is a chart that First Trust put out. And when I saw that, I couldn't believe it because you go back to 2000, you see these numbers, and you really look at the growth of government since that time period. What did we do? We had 9/11. We created the TSA and all the different services and what have you. The cost of everything's gone through the roof. Now you got 50+%, 52, 53% of the population that depend on the government. We used to be scared when it got up into the high 40s, and now we're well over 50%. And then you have all the other resources. It goes on and on. So you look at this big, beautiful bill, what's going on there. If we don't start cutting the cost of things and getting government out of people's lives, your cost of healthcare, cost of education, all that stuff's going to continue to just blow up. And the problem is we can't afford it as a nation as we continue to subsidize. And you look at how people have moved forward. You look at what's going on in New York. You got Pocahontas that now has declared that her and Mandini or whatever the guy's name is, they're gonna create a democratic socialism. Well, this is what you get. You want more of it? Keep on doing it. And with Trump in office, I think he's a great wedge, a stopgap. But people have to realize that these costs are, those are the main things you pay for in life: food, education, healthcare, all of it. Energy costs, it's amazing. So I bring that up. This letter is filled with information like this on a regular basis, but this is something that just came out, and it's in our end of July letter. But and it's interesting to see this and what's going on and how it plays into really doing what you do as a CPA and business owners. These costs are not going away.
Doug, where can people find you online? Because we're running right up against the break. Real quick.
www.degroupfinancial.com.
Dean, I'm going to give the closing statement to you. What should people be reaching out to you about and for?
Well, one of the things I'd like to point out, and again, it's not out of arrogance, it's out of humility, but if we don't tell you, you don't know. We noted a few weeks ago, Rod and I were talking that the labor market has cracked. We said that 3 weeks ago. And you go back to the reruns and look at it, and what happened to the jobs report that just came out. So this is the place where you get real news. You can listen to the chamber. The Freedom Chamber is a place you can get real news that you can use and implement and count on it being accurate, and you can believe in. The rest of the mainstream media, you're really taking a lot of big shots there. So guys like Doug, guys like Rod, guys like myself, we get it right. And that's not arrogance. That's not arrogance. But if we don't tell you, you won't know, because we're going to tell you some things that are far different. Doug, I noticed that First Trust, those guys, they're different. Ryan Westbury and his group, those are people
Ryan's
you need
a
to
dear
listen
friend
to.
of mine. He's actually the guy that lured me to the interest on reserves. And in fact, just to give you an example real quick, I was able to get him on Charlie Kirk's show as well as Bannon's show. And that's where it took the impetus of creating traction with the Senate. And Ted Cruz and Scott from Florida and quite a few others, they're all over it. And if it wasn't for Brian Westbury, he's the real hero. I just was the voice.
This is why I love the Business Pulse, because we can run into overtime and nobody's yelling in my ear telling me to go to commercial break at the moment. But Doug, great information. Dean, great information. This is why the Freedom Chamber is built, to connect people, to get ideas out, to get insight, to also share information that you're going to need to run a business. The Freedom Chamber, join them online at freedomchamber.net. Dean, thanks for being here. Doug, thanks for being here. You've been inside the Business Pulse.
My name is Dean Owen. I'm a CPA. I have a master's degree in taxation and a personal financial specialist. Tax laws are always changing. That's why you need a tax strategist, not just a tax preparer. You need someone to help you pay the least amount of tax legally. Because if your business and retirement tax planning is not tax smart, it's probably tax dumb. Let's fix that today. Call me. Let's disinherit the government and not your kids. That's what my team and I do. This is who we are. I'm a combat veteran, unapologetically American, unapologetically pro-God, pro-life, and pro-Second Amendment. If those are the values you seek in a tax and money advisor, call us. Again, let's disinherit the government and not your kids. We're not afraid to share our values, and we share them with you.